What a beautiful morning. It is December 22nd at 12:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm excited. Stephanie,
Yes,
yay, I get to hang out with you today.
yes, I'm happy. I'm very excited.
This is going to be
We
fun.
had a few little changes happen. I think Misty is doing worship, she said, for her for women's retreat. I believe it's a singles retreat. And then she got Rebecca, and then Rebecca had something like she didn't know. She got like the wrong day. So I was like, oh no, two down. Who am I gonna, who's gonna work with me?
Well,
So
that's fun
Charlie
because I
came
was
to my
already
rescue.
planning on hanging out and producing this with you today. So I'm like, I'm going to be
Yeah.
there anyway. And I realized, Stephanie, that, I kind of took this whole year off. I'm going to be doing the fifth Fridays.
Oh,
So
okay.
next week, I will be on next week with Rebecca Smith. And if those of you don't know her from Scholar Ministry, she'll be hanging out with me. And so I'll be doing that. I think every 3 months, I think there's five Fridays in the
Right.
month. So I'll be
Right.
popping in. I realize this is the starting of our ninth season of the portion.
Wow.
And for 8 years straight, teaching it every single Friday at the same time, showing up
Wow.
to the table and reading it. So, and you know what, Stephanie, every single year it's new. It's like, I don't
It
remember
is.
reading this.
I'm sure. That's why
Yeah.
his word is living, right? It's
So
always new.
I'm just doing a quick announcement. Two things. One is I want to tell everybody, I made notes, so I didn't go crazy. First of all, if you're wondering where we're at right now in this study, we're in Genesis 44:18 through 47:27. Vayigash, if you want to know, like, who have another name. Ina is helping us today, so big shout out, thank you. She just hopped in. She said she'll help let people in, so we don't have to be total octopuses today. And she's really good about usually popping in those links sometimes for us too. And I want to tell everyone, stay till the very end because everyone, and if you're watching on the live stream, I would highly encourage you to hop over and onto the Zoom because everyone left over on Zoom, we are going to I'm going to do a giveaway today, and I'm going to give away Gail Heaton's book, and her book through ancient eyes, and it's the book of
Oh,
Exodus. So it's taking you the ancient Near East perspective, and I love it because she does it very user friendly. If you're
yeah,
brand new, it won't wait. Do you have the book yet, Stephanie?
I
Do you
do.
have
It's
it?
very just easy to read and easy to
Mm-hmm.
understand. So,
It's amazing, and I love that when you're reading, you're like, oh, that's what that means, and it helps you understand, like, we don't live there.
yes.
We're not living back in those days. We are not living in that culture. So she gives you a little glimpse of
Yeah.
what it would have been like.
Each.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a giveaway. I'm going to give away one of those books. I'm going to do a drawing from
Oh,
everyone who left till the end. So there's your encouragement to stay till the end. And then the second giveaway I'm going to give, if you're watching the recording of this, if you email us, you have to now you have to wait till the very end, and you're on your word right now that you did it. You're watching the recording to the end. By the way, that really helps our analytics if you don't pop out too early. I know that's a crazy thing, huh, Stephanie? People don't understand the little
I
things
know.
Google tracks.
Yeah.
But if you stay till the end, I want you to send us an email at info@ the Rooted Cafe. Remember, it's KAFE.com, and say, I stayed to the end, and I'll give away a second book for that giveaway for those that watch the replay. So we're giving away 2 books. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that this is a time of giving, and a lot of people are giving, and I just want to ask you to pray and consider giving to the Rooted Cafe so that we can continue to bring the Torah, bring the whole Bible
Mm-hmm.
to women, bringing community to them, continue to be able to serve the way that we do and more next year. We're really loving and wanting to be able to do more conferences. We were a little limited because the gospel's free. You hear me say this all the time, but the pipeline is not free.
Right.
So we had to slow back on a couple of our conferences this year because of that. But if you're considering giving, would you just go to therootedcafe.com/donate, or at the top, there's a donate button. Every little tiny penny helps. It all goes towards getting Torah to women and building this community strong. Or also consider joining us in our monthly, we have a membership community, which Stephanie, right? So many hours of stuff, over 1,000 hours of
It is.
teaching.
Yeah. Can't
It's
do it on 1
No,
year.
but it's stuff you can use. It's that you can not only just use personally, you can use it in homeschooling. So many things you could incorporate in your
Mhm.
homeschooling, like our alphabet course. I mean, I won't even start, but so
And in
many
teaching
things you could do.
classes, if you teach your own classes, incorporating some of those things.
Yeah, and we have it's really cool because Gail has the help. It's the half Tara, so she does the half Tara portion, as
Mhm.
well as you're going to get a glimpse of the through ancient eyes in the Torah portion as well in
Right.
there, so you get to hear part of it. So this has been an interesting week as we head into this. Right? What did you do? Did you do anything for Hanukkah? Did you do anything special? You and I kind of celebrate about the same way. So how was your Hanukkah?
It was nice. It was, my kids don't quite get all that. So it was lighting the candles. Really, all I did. I didn't decorate a whole lot, but I wanted to light the candles each evening and that kind of thing. So that's kind of, it was simple, but pretty. So,
Yeah, it's kind of nice to be at that place where you're just in another place of remembrance every night. There's some fun devotions. If anyone has a devotion that you did, I would love to hear. Put it in the chat. Let us know. This is the devotion that I did. Um, do I want to hear from you? Do you do gifts during every single night? Is that what you do for Hanukkah? If you want to put in the chat how you celebrate Hanukkah, how that works for you. Our family, again, I'm like Stephanie. I have older children who they're just kind of like watching and waiting, and so we do the candles. Now, what we do that's really fun is next week, Rebecca Smith, and I'll have her share a little more about this next week. But what she does, Stephanie, oh my gosh, this is our second year participating. I was a driver last year with my granddaughters. We had so much fun. So all 8 nights, families sign up and we get drivers will drive around. You get a route and they will drop a gift at your door. And it's just a paper sack, but inside of it, you get a treat for everyone. It's some homemade little treat of some kind, very simple, something that's going along with the theme. And there's always like an activity. There's a letter from Rebecca to the kids and a letter from her husband, Rabbi Ron. He writes to the adults. So, and there's a theme. So last year the theme was dragons, and it was around the whole story about how the king was. It's from the Apocrypha that she brought that the king that with Daniel and the dragons, and he was like it was actually the priests that were sneaking in a back door and were taking the sacrifices away. And so he was saying that they weren't true gods, and it was a story many of us don't hear often. So they were
right.
telling that. Well, this year she was talking about the Maccabees, how they had to run to the hills like the gnomes live in the hills. So it was very gnome themed. So she had little names of different gnomes, and every night you got
Oh,
a
how
different
cute.
gnome. It was just the funnest thing. I'm just telling you, every night. So the kids are encouraged to look for the light. And if you're a driver, you have to carry a little flashlight or we all get flashlights. So you're trying to get to the door, drop the gift, and get back to your car before they catch you, because they get points if they send Rebecca pictures that
Oh,
they
how
caught
funny.
you, or if they pelt you with little marshmallows, they get points, and then there's a winner like at the end.
Oh,
So
wow.
the kids are waiting for you to drop these, and it's just a simple little gift. They're waiting till you get there, and they're trying to catch you, and they're looking
How
for the light.
cute.
And you're teaching them to look for the light of Messiah. And they're looking at and my granddaughters helped me do the deliveries last year. They had so much fun. This year they were on the route, and it was so fun them calling me that they were sitting at their window waiting for trying to catch their driver. It was just so much fun. I'm gonna really work with her. You guys encourage me, encourage her next week to make this something that we can share so you guys could do the same type of things in your communities, because it
Wow.
was so much fun and simple. You guys, it wasn't these big expensive gifts.
Right.
So
So is this part of their congregation, the people within their congregation they were going to
yeah, and
their
it's very simple.
houses?
We're just a home study group. It's a home study
Okay.
group, but then
Okay.
it's like friends, and then they have friends even in they also help with the Sunday church as well. And so the people from the Sunday church actually help. And there's lots of families. It's interdenominational, but it's all bringing everybody into teaching them about Hanukkah, teaching them about Messiah, and it's just such a beautiful outreach. It's so fun. It's
That
families that are
sounds
involved
fun.
are across the board.
That sounds
Yeah,
really fun.
it was so fun. So I just wanted to share we did that. And And I'm praying for them because I'm sure they're exhausted. Everybody's exhausted after doing that a week. Yeah. And Stephanie, you and I talked about this time of year. We're going into this section. This is all about families.
Mhm. Mhm.
This is about different kinds of families
Mhm.
who might look different than you, who might do things different than you, who might have more favor than you. There's a lot of stuff that this whole section is about.
Mm.
I think it's due timing. This is the time of year, and we're not going to be afraid to say the C word, Christmas, today. And this is a time of year when there's division, there's
Yeah.
anger, families are arguing. It's just really sad when the goal, ultimately would be celebrating, for us would be maybe the conception of our Messiah, celebrating still the light of the world, that our Messiah actually came to earth. And whether it was, having that be the center of what others are doing as opposed to
Right.
other things, that's where we're at. But don't you just see so much arguing and division right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all have our different beliefs. We all have our different passions and convictions. And so, and not to put down anybody's, because we're all in different places, but I think that's what we have to always consider, that we're all in different places. Right now, my husband and I started this whole Torah thing less than a year ago. And so while I've been a Bible teacher for 20 years and been really focusing on the Old Testament, it was just this year that the Lord, at the beginning of the year, he goes, I want you to start doing the feasts. I want you to start putting into practice everything you've been learning.
Okay.
And but my kids aren't there.
But isn't
My
it like a good
sisters
diet?
aren't there.
Isn't it like a good diet? Like if you have a really good health coach, they're going to tell you, don't worry about what you can't have.
Right.
Just keep adding all the good stuff. Just
Yeah.
just keep adding the good
Right.
stuff, and
Right.
you'll slowly, all the other stuff will fade away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what if you get to be that? You're just going to say, oh, let's come over.
Yeah.
Inviting people for Shabbat, inviting people for the Moedim, that, the
Exactly.
feasts,
Yeah.
the festivals. Start showing them those things, and then the things of earth will grow faintly dim. Remember that song?
Yeah, and I mean, and I still feel like, yeah, and you're right. You're absolutely right. But I have a big, big family. I have 5 sisters, their families. My mother is still alive. Um, and of course I have 3 children. And so, none of them are doing what I'm doing. And so do you no, I'm not doing, which I'm not getting together with you like I have every year for the last 50 some years. I mean, what do you do? So,
Yeah.
so
I had some really good perspective of that because even my daughter, we were at a women's conference, and it was a Messianic women's conference, and she just sat and observed. Now, this was the first time that she's ever gone to anything like this with me. She's gone with me when I was an evangelist, when I was teaching and speaking all over the country when she was little. She hasn't been with me since she was maybe 14.
mm,
And this was new for her. And she sat listening at the table and she said, Mom, I was sad because it was a little culty.
mm,
She's like, and I know what you believe, and I know your heart, and I know. And she's walked this out. We just didn't do
right.
the feast festivals yet because as I was growing and learning, then she got out of the house. We started with dietary. We started with maybe with other things, which that's for another day. But he will may start you where he needs to work with you in some
Oh
areas. So we
yeah.
have to just
Yeah.
really have grace for each other. And she was like, I was really sad because I sat at the table while everybody was attacking Christmas, and everybody was attacking it at the table, like, oh yeah, then
I know.
really snarky about it. She says, I sat there, they assumed because I was your daughter, but they didn't know she was like, I have a Christmas tree in my house and I have things, and they basically shamed me sitting at the table. And she was, why would I join that? Why would I be part of that? And I thought, what would Jesus do? What would Yeshua do sitting at that table? What would he do? And I mean, I feel like it's a place where you need to. Tyler Don Rosenquist has a very good
I have
articles,
looked at hers. I have actually
great
sent
stuff.
them
She
out
has
to people.
her research is spot on. So many of you may have are going to struggle with that, but I want to encourage you. This is the thing. Know what you know, and don't know it because someone else told it to you. And I mean that with everything. The old, maybe I had to do that with everything up to a certain point. I just wrote it all down. I've shared that before. And we are going to get into the Torah portion, I promise. But this is important because this is a struggle everyone's in, and everyone's like, they're in the closet. They don't want to tell everybody that they're going to go to their Christmas stuff with their family. They don't want to say that word out loud because their messianic friends are going to judge them. I'm setting you all free today. Okay, stop. We're not all living in the closet. We can't be those people.
Yeah.
We do have to be all things to all people. And it is individual between you and God. What is he saying to do? And make sure if you have some righteous indignation, passion, well, I'm not going to do this. I want you to question those things that you feel that way about, because I want you to question those things. You know, when Yeshua got angry and had righteous anger, it was because they were being unjust and unfair, and they were hurting poor people
Right.
by not trading the money correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what he was mad about.
Mm-hmm.
So just I'm going to ask you to spend time with him. Know why you believe what you believe.
And religious spirits are very, very real on all sides, right?
So my religious spirit,
church.
Stephanie, can I tell you? It was deep, and it has to do with this Torah portion.
Mm.
He said to me last year, and I've shared this, but I'll reiterate. Your family would have starved to death. And I'm like, what? You would not have been able, you would not have been able to save the world. I'm like, what? Because you would have stayed in the prison because you would have worried about looking too Egyptian.
Wow.
And I'm like, so like of course he knows me. You would have left and been like, oh, I'll interpret the dream. And then they would have offered you the job, and they would have told you had to put on the Egyptian outfits. You have to go in the chariot, it says, and the people bowed down before him as he was driving, and a man yelled out in front of him, telling them to bow down before. You wouldn't have let them do that. You would have not wore the eyeliner. Your brothers would have recognized you because you would have not changed. You would have made sure they knew you were still super Hebrew. Don't worry, I'm not Egyptian. You would have been so worried about what other people thought. You would not have allowed yourself to immerse yourself to make a change. And the result would have been your family would have starved to death, and the world would have starved to death.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's really, really good. That's really good, because if we aren't willing to change for some people and be like them so we can save them, right? I think that's what I hear you saying. If we don't become a little bit like the Egyptians, we can't save the Egyptians. If I don't become a little bit like the church, because that is my even with my podcast where I'm at, I'm like, if I shut the door on all my church going Sunday morning church friends, then I shut the door to telling them the great, amazing things I've learned about the Torah. And I don't want to do that. I can't do that.
We're going to keep it in the pit by ourselves. We'll just all stay here in this pit. We're not going to invite anybody because we don't want we don't want this to look too churchy. We don't want it to look too, because I don't know, maybe you've said that. Maybe you've been afraid, and I've heard congregations, they're worried about it looking too churchy. It's like, it is a church. It's the ecclesia. Why don't you look the word up? We are the church.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I prefer to say, because I want to include the Messianic believers. They don't consider themselves the church, the Jewish Messianic believers. So I always say that we're all believers in Yeshua. We all believe in him. We're all part of his family. But I know when another family and myself and my husband have started a small gathering, and when there was a family that had come, and when we suggested, or when we called it church, she's like, this is not church, and she was very hateful, and she was very negative, and everything we were doing, anything we thought about, even talking about, she would explain to us how pagan we were being. It got so tiring. And my son, one of my oldest sons, is just like, Mom, I am so tired of that word pagan. I can barely stand to hear it anymore. I don't even want to listen
How
to the
rude.
conversation.
Like how rude and
So,
how proud are we to even say, oh, that's so pagan. Oh, let me just spend a minute at your house. I'm sure we could find some pagan stuff. Like don't come to my house. I have to use a screen right now today. That's why I look like an alien because we're renovating and you don't want to see what's behind me. But I mean,
you're a busy
if you
woman.
came to my house, you would find something. I'm sure you're gonna find something. There's gonna be a book. There's gonna be a something that you're gonna be like, oh.
Well, even
Anyway.
yeah. So yeah, I know we've gotten way off track, I feel like, but it's true. So I just think
Well, it
that
isn't
I
in the fact
struggle.
that we have to step into that. We can be in the world, but not of the world, right? And in that, in every situation, we should be able to blossom. We should be like Paul, that he went and he thrived when he was he was able to step in with Gentiles. He was able to step in with Jews. He was able to step into each environment, not out of pride and not out of condemnation. He wasn't condemning them for anything, but come in with love. What if you come in loving everyone and they're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? You've changed. I want to be like you. And
Mhm.
that's what happened. Here we have Joseph. Like they didn't even recognize him. But who do we see the biggest change in? Well, we're going to start right off with Judah. It starts right
Yes.
off talking
Yes.
about Judah. We hop right in, and here we have Judah
Hmm.
pleading for his family. That's not who he was before.
Right. And it's amazing because one of the things that I saw in here as you bring that up was when you go through and you see how Judah has changed, because look at the whole thing with Judah and Tamar. That was that last week's portion, but and how arrogant he was in the beginning of that, and he treated her wrongly, but yet she humbled him because of she did what was right. Honestly, she did what was she said she said, look, this is who you are, and you're not protecting me. You haven't done your job as a patriarch to protect me. And he was humbled by that, and you see him changing. And I think that is such a amazing story, because that is what the gospel, that is what God's word is about, changing us. It's about change for all of us.
Mm. And not for us to get all proud and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
It's about
you're
humility.
watching. It's about humility. We
Mhm.
should be able to step into our family things and in humility and showing them so much love and showing them so much grace,
Mhm.
showing
And
them who Yeshua truly is.
right. Yeah, sorry. And it even kind of the way he explains when he's talking, he now understands that his father loved Rachel more than his own mother, and he was okay with it. Now he's okay, but he loved his father. He still loved his father, and he didn't want to see his dad heartbroken again. And that is real maturity. It's like, you've hurt me, but you know what? I don't want to hurt you back. I don't want to hurt you anymore. I want to make peace. So I think it's a really good lesson. It gets me all emotional because I think how many times in my own life it's like I um I don't want to fight anymore. I just want to have peace with you.
And you could relate to this with so many siblings. I'm sure there's some
Yeah.
arguments sometimes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We're all very
If you're
different.
listening right now, is there someone right now you're arguing with? Do you have someone in your family who's just there's just a division that's going on, and it's something that could be fixed? Now, sometimes there's division for there needs to be a separation in your
Yeah.
families, and sometimes that's
There's
necessary.
toxic people that we need to separate ourselves from, but
Right.
but there's other people, I mean, I've had two different sisters I've had major conflicts with, and where one sister, and I think I've shared this before, so I won't go into all the details, but just 5 years of really not talking. And then the Lord just healed me and said he healed the hurt so I could go back. And we have a great relationship now. And the other one wasn't nearly as long. It was just, you know, uh, actually it was just a couple of years, but it wasn't as bad as the other one. But all it took was her saying, I'm sorry. And that just brought all my walls down. And I was able to say, yes, I'm too. It was ridiculous. Why did we fight?
This is still
So,
all silly. And we see Judah right here. This is so big because we see Judah going from the guy who is selling his brother Joseph
right,
to short of killing him,
right.
you
Who
know,
wanted to kill him? Yeah.
wanted to kill him because of his jealousy,
Yeah.
because rightfully so. It's
Yeah.
lorded over you all the time, and we're going to see this reiterated that all of a sudden we're going to hear it. We're going to hear as you read this portion. I want you to listen and think about this from the. I'm push you guys to get immersive. Sit in this. What if you're the other brother? What's the perspective of this story
Yeah.
if you're Simon?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if
And
what if that's you? What if
right.
you are Reuben? What if you and someone's talking about how much they're so in love with someone else's mom and how Benjamin is now the only son?
Oh yeah,
How does
he's
that
the only
feel?
son. He's my only son. And he doesn't even mention Simeon's name, right? He just
And
mentions
he's
like
in jail. He's
Benjamin.
willing to sacrifice him.
Yeah. Don't kill my son, Benjamin. Don't lose him. But what I found, this I learned from a scholar in Aramaic and Hebrew. I don't know if anybody knows Chaim ben Torah. So I've read a lot of his books and devotionals, but he actually talks about the story of Joseph. And if you read along, you see that sometimes Jacob is called Jacob and sometimes Jacob is called Israel. And he addressed that. And he
Ooh.
said, when Jacob is called Jacob, Jacob is acting in his own flesh. He's doing what he wants to do. Not bad, not good. He's just doing what Jacob is doing. But when Jacob is called Israel, he's doing what God wants him to do. He is actually acting, he is being obedient to God's will in a situation. Whether he realizes it or not, the term Israel, the name Israel means he is acting in obedience to God's plan. And I think it's interesting because Israel is used when it says Israel loved Joseph. Israel loved Joseph. And I think it shows that God had a plan. Of course, we know, and even if I jump to the end of this portion, he admits, he goes, Joseph says to his brothers, it wasn't you that put me in here. God put me here. It wasn't you that put me in that pit. It was God who put me in that pit. God sold me to the Egyptians. It's so cool because he's giving God all the credit, but it was Israel who started this off, and God allowed that friction. God allowed that so they could. Yeah, I'm getting ahead of you, but it's
You're
really
not ahead
cool.
of me. I think that's really good. I think it's great. It's like he already knows what's gonna happen. And when you said that he not only knew the plan, we can talk about this. We weave in here. He has these two sons who are half Egyptian,
Yes.
who now take his spot as
Right.
part of the tribes. These two boys who would have looked like Egyptian, walked like an Egyptian. They
Yep.
would, if you're old enough to know the song.
Spoken the language,
Spoken the
fluent.
language, wearing the liner, having the hair. I mean, they would have fully been they would have not looked
Yeah.
like
Shaved
little Hebrew
heads,
boys.
which you don't do in Hebrew, in the
And
Jewish
they would have
culture,
come in
right?
and converted. They would have come in and sat at the feet of Israel, of Jacob,
Yeah.
and learned from him, and he brought them in then as one of the 12. That's beautiful to
It's an
me.
amazing story. And
It's the
even,
beautiful tapestry, right? Of
oh
these
yeah,
just
yeah.
beautiful things intertwining. Who are we to judge something? We have no idea what his plan is. No
Mhm.
idea.
No. And even the coat. The coat wasn't so much about it being a colorful coat as it was a second coat, because who got the second coat? The oldest son. They got twice the inheritance, right? So it would have been he was being treated like the oldest son, like the heir. And God was saying, yeah, he is going to be an heir, just not yours. He is going to be
Mm.
somebody's heir because he's going to be Pharaoh's heir. He's going to be second in command. And so God was already honoring him, and Jacob was following suit. Israel was following suit with that. And it was like he saw what was going on, that the special anointing that God had on him. And he saw that. and I think he acted upon it. So
Yeah.
it's very patriarchal, but also inheritance type of thing, but it's also covenant language.
Very much covenant language. And one of the things we hear in here that's very covenantal in verse 30, you and I had this talk a little bit about it. And you'll, if you do listen to Aleph Beta with Rabbi Foreman, he talks about his life. He says his life, Judah's saying, my dad's life is bound to this son, to Ben
Right.
Hameen, to Benjamin. His life is bound to him. The verbiage and that same string of words in Hebrew is the same word. It's marriage covenant words of a woman. If you go back to Genesis in the beginning during creation, he's saying, and then he will cleave to his wife. He will be bound. It's the same
Will leave
verbiage.
his father, and
It's the same language, and so you have this intense covenantal language being spoken here that's very difficult for us because we're like, we're not friends anymore. I'm unfriending you and blocking you on Facebook. Like, we don't get this deep
right
connection that was happening, how this the love, not just the love, but I also am feeling like if you step into the Father, it's like his love for us is his love is that deep. He is bound to us. I was, do you ever sit and you hear the word, who is God to you? Who is Abba to you? Who is Elohim to you? Who is the creator of the universe, the Holy One to you? Is he your savior? Is he your redeemer? You can grab all those things. But when you say, is he your beloved? Is he bound to you? Have you cleaved to him?
right.
That's weird. Sometimes hard to understand someone you can't see, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you just like something just popped in my head. So sorry, I tend to react.
No, I love it. Yes, go.
But when you said that, the same guy, Chaim Ben Torah, that's his pen name, so he doesn't actually give out his real name. But he actually said that when Jesus said Abba, he wasn't just saying father, he was saying beloved, because it was a covenant, it was that covenant language
You're
that
one. Don't separate yourself from me. Like, we are cleaved together. This is this language. We are bound together.
right.
And I'm the son of my right hand, which was Benjamin's name, son of my right hand.
Yeah.
And he was going to sit at the right hand. He's the son of God. There's so much intertwining of language here that you can just sit in that. It's so beautiful. I'm wondering, what have you cleaved to? And for me, what he showed me this week, and if I wrote, I just writing about it when I sent you guys out, emails about this, but he showed me this week what was new was I have cleaved to things, Stephanie, that I became my identity. And every single time I cleave to something that he hasn't told me to, it gets taken away. So I have an identity crisis. I sang, had recordings. That was my ministry. I would go and I would speak and I would sing and do concerts and all these things. And then I get thyroid cancer and he cuts my laryngeal nerve and I can't sing anymore.
Wow.
And then I'm like, well, who am I?
Yeah.
Who am I now? Because I promise you, he's going to ask you to give up the very thing that you've cleaved to. Your children. I'm a mother. That's my identity.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, and I'm not picking on you, but how often do we use the word my ministry?
Yes.
And is it really
not
your ministry or my ministry?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not
I mean,
even a little
and
bit.
it's a habit. We do it.
My
and I'm
money.
not picking
That's,
on you,
my
but
money.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, and that can be something. You may have cleaved to money or things. And then all of a sudden you're crying out, why did you take all this away from me? And it's like, here's what's happening is he's saying, he's asking Judah, Israel, to give the very thing he's cleaved himself to. And I want you to trust me with this. And Judah says, listen, give it to me. I'm going to take care of it. And I will die. I will die instead. He's offering his own life up. This is where we see the Lion of the tribe of Judah step in.
I was just
This is when the identity just steps in. Now
that's Messiah language.
That's totally Messiah language. I will give my life up for Simon and for Benjamin, for both brothers, for both houses. I'm going to give my life up for them.
Yes.
I'm willing to do that. And we see Yeshua, oh, wait, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. We see him saying, I'm willing to give my life up for you.
Right.
You have to release everything and trust me and release those things that you're making your identity and you've cleaved to. And I can't, no, my life is bound to this.
Yeah.
Who am I without this?
Mm.
And he's saying, I died for that. I
Right.
was willing to set you free. You didn't even know you were there was a bartering happening that I was
Right.
advocating for you. You didn't even know what was happening. And even right now in the atmospheres, the war is not of flesh and blood, but there's some stuff going on. He's saying, I already got you.
Yeah.
You got to let go of the things that you've married yourself to.
Mm. Amen. That's so true. That's so good. So I agree. I mean, because, you know, and I shared with Charlie before we started, because the friendships and even the church, I mean, we were at before, you know, in this transition of doing Shabbat and everything, we were still going to a Sunday morning service. And no matter, and I really, really wanted to teach there and teach them what I had been learning. And I was excited, and the pastor was kind of excited, but I got turned down. Every single thing I tried, I was turned down. I was turned down when I wanted to do a women's Bible study. I was turned down when I wanted to teach a Sunday school class. I was turned down when I wanted to you know, just all these different things, be on the Sunday school board type of thing, you know, and help out with what gets taught. And I was turned down, and it was finally like, Lord, are you doing this? Is this you? And I felt very peaceful at the fact that, yeah, this isn't where I want you. This isn't where I want you to teach. I don't care how many good things you have to teach them. It's not where I want you to teach. And I had to let go. And
I'm
so
going to just tell you, Stephanie, you're going to find something really cool is going to happen. I pray that I'm here. I get to hear it from you. The testimony. He may, because this is happening to many people that I know right now who have gone through what you've gone through. And we've been doing this for a long time, including myself, where he's recently starting to say, I think you can go back in now. Because I couldn't teach it in there, because I did for a while, but I was zealous and I was coming at it hard because I knew the truth, and the truth was going to set everybody free. And I came in like a vengeance, and he was like, yeah, but now it's really interesting. I know friends are being offered things in Sunday churches, and they're still doing Shabbat. They're doing those Moedim. They're still doing all those things, but God is calling major players to come back into their interdenominational congregations and being able to come in there, and because they're humbled, they have found the humility of Judah. They're not slashing their brothers and sisters and selling them off to, oh, that's too pagan. Oh, that's blah, blah. They actually have such a sweet humility now that they can step in and actually make a difference and not come in, I'm going to convert everybody.
Right.
I'm going to tell them the truth. He will never let you do it if that's your attitude. But once you have been humbled by his sweet, sweet spirit, and you can be like, Lord, use me. What'll probably happen is you'll go in there and they'll teach you something.
Yeah.
I walked into Sunday church, you guys, I think first of the year last year. And I walked in and they were breaking down chiastic structures of like the books in
Really?
books. And they were just breaking down Hebrew words. And there was other stuff. I was like, no, but I read a lot of stuff that I have to spit the bones out that's full on hardcore Jewish or full on hardcore.
Right.
So, but what you just go where he calls you and don't worry about being too Egyptian. I just don't want that to keep you from walking out your calling.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But when you're ready, he may put you in some places. You're going to be like, really?
I know.
Okay.
I know.
But you'll be humble enough to go then.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. And it's funny because we met with friends last night, and their daughter is very Torah observant, and they being, you know, her parents. And I think like there might be a few people on here who live in my area, and I think Gabby and but they know. It's like when I brought up these names, she was like, oh yeah, I know Gabby. Or, oh yeah, I know. It was funny because they're the Maxwell, so I saw Gabby was on here. But yeah, so it's just amazing. But being able to talk to this young 23-year-old about the things that we're learning, the things that she's been learning, because it's just been fun. It's been amazing. And her parents just sit there and listen, and they're not quite on board yet, but they do Shabbat with her. They do the Sabbath. They do the feast when she sets them up. They want to support her. So they do. And I give them a lot of credit because we're not all supporting that way,
Wouldn't that be fun? I mean, it's so fun if we can be that humble that we step into something in full human. See, now Joseph couldn't have done it when he was like, "Oh yeah, you guys were bowing to me," and I was. That's why he had to go
Yeah,
to the pit first. That's why
right.
he had to go to
He had to
pit
be
and then to the
humbled.
prison.
14 years
He
in
had to get humbled.
prison.
So
Prison has a way of
the
humbling you, doesn't it? So,
sure does.
being
Not that
enslaved.
I've been in my own kind of prisons, but yeah, it'll humble you. And I think that, and that's that thing. Remember that, you humble yourself in the sight of the Lord and then he will lift you up. We remember that. You had said something about, you know, it's, but we always going to bring up Romans 8:28. I think I saw Lori Rodriguez put
Yes.
that over in the port over in the chat over here. But we're saying he jumping, towards the end. We're not there yet, but it's always going to work for your good. And you were talking about that. So we're wondering, why is this all happening? There's a lot of times when I have said, oh my gosh, if I do this and this and this, and God's like, listen, you're not that powerful. You can't mess this up that bad.
I know.
You're not
We
that
think we
powerful.
can. I know. I
Yeah,
said
even
that to
with our
somebody.
children, like he's like, I'm gonna work this for their good. So it doesn't, I mean, not it does matter. Do your best.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm just saying, release the guilt. Don't parent out of guilt. Don't have relationships out of guilt or so worried you're gonna mess things up. Humble yourself that you're just not that powerful. And once you give that up and you're like, I can't mess this up. You're
Right.
not going to. You're not going to go out and step all over
Exactly.
grace.
Yeah.
Surely not, right? Paul says, of course you're not going to do that.
Yeah. And you said that, and that does make me think. I said that to somebody once. I said, "Oh, you think you're pretty powerful, don't you?" In her eyes, she was just like, what are you talking about?" I said, "Do you actually think you can mess up God's plan? Yeah, you may derail it for a little bit. You may set it off, in your own life from happening, but you don't derail his plan altogether. You can't do it. So you're not that powerful to be able to overcome God's plan that he put into action before you were born." You just
And
can't do it.
what if we're looking for the we come to this place where we're finding these beautiful opportunities. We had an opportunity yesterday where my husband and I went to go look for a couch. And literally we drove 30 minutes specifically to this mall area just to go to this couch. Well, it was a single little store and someone had told us about it. So we are going to go look. And we walk just as we're coming to the door. It's 4:15. The girl puts the thing out to lunch, turns off the lights and walks out. And we just like looked at each other and I'm like, well,
Wow.
now what do we do? And we're not like mall shoppers, so we don't want to like go shop the mall. Like that did not look good. So there's a PF Chang's like 3 doors down or something. So I said, well, let's just go sit over there and we'll just go sit and get some appetizers or something. We were going to go to dinner, but I said, no, let's just go get some appetizers. So we sit down. We had the best like appetizers. It was just so nice. And then they did these flaming like I forgot what they were, like a dumpling, like flaming dumplings with steak in them, and they just like and they set them on fire, and we had the best time. And now we said from now on, when something comes up, we're just going to say, hey, out to lunch. And it was such a beautiful, it worked for our good. We had this
Yeah.
fun date night that we sat, we talked, we laughed, we got up and we went and looked at the couch. I mean, and we walked in and we told her and she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're like, no, it was really a blessing. It was the blessing in disguise. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what's going on? And your go-to is frustration. Your go-to is anger. I was proud of us. We did not get all weirded out and frustrated and mad. Like, are you kidding me? I'm going to call the
Right.
manager. Who's running this joint? That
Yeah.
would have been me before.
I
We were
know.
looking for another thing to do, and we had such a great night, such a great date night. It was fun.
That's good because that says a lot, right? I mean, my husband is a little bit of a control freak, and so he hates it when I
I know
use
a
that
good book
term.
for him.
But that kind of thing will just totally like, what? Now what do we do? This is why we came here. I have other things to do. It's like, no, we'll just wait. That would be hard. So good for you.
So tell me what you got from the part the reveal, the big reveal. Did you have any insight on that at all? On what happens as the brothers come up, as Judah is crying out, you have Reuben come, everybody's like, we have we're seeing a change of heart.
Yeah, I
And
think it was just, I think what impacted me, it was no big insight or revelation, the humility of Joseph. He could have reamed them good. Look what you did. But you know what? He didn't. He didn't. And that's what I had actually said before. He cried. He was so happy to be back with his brothers that they all wept. It was like, have you been in a room where the men get so emotional that I mean, I remember seeing my father just weep from the joy of the Lord, and I think back to that because he's passed away now, but it was like so powerful to see my father weep over something. And I think that's what it would have happened here, just to see this group of 12 men weeping because they're together again.
that broken and contrite spirit, and like you said, when your sister said, I'm sorry, you're like, me too, I'm sorry. And now it was over, it's over. I don't know if you've had friends like that where they say they're sorry and you're sorry, like, okay, we're sorry, and you don't have to go, okay, but let's now walk through each thing and talk about this. It's just done, everybody knows. And
Yeah.
I I'm going to share something really personal that I wasn't planning on sharing, but I had someone recently who I thought was just wasn't doing very well. And you're watching somebody kind of spiral.
Mhm.
And I shared with a couple people, like, ooh, I think, of course I cloaked it in a prayer request. This full disclosure, guys. You need to pray for her, because and they're like, I know, I've seen her stuff on Facebook, and it was just an excuse to gossip. So embarrassed. Here we go. So I sit down with the Lord, and I'm like, Lord, here's this person. Something's going on. And I start to pray for them. And he just stopped me, goes, stop. You can't pray for her until your heart is broken for her.
Mm.
It
Wow.
crushed me, because I was just saying the words, because I was doing my religious obligation. I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to pray. And since then, every time I'm beginning to pray for someone, I stop first and I ask the Lord to search my heart. Father, I want to love them and be broken for them the way you are. I want to be like Judah. And he's like, he's acting cray right now. Are you willing to lay your life down for her?
Yeah.
Because greater love, right, is the one that lays their life down. That's the great love, is you lay your life down for your brother or your sister. Are you willing to do that?
Mhm.
Or are you more wanting just let everybody know, yeah, I'm seeing she's a little cray right now. Yep, we need to pray. Like, we're so good.
Right.
But he's like, I want you to stop, and I want you to spend time, and I want your heart to get broken for her.
Right.
I want you to bleed for her. I want you to be willing to step in front of a car for her. And then I'll hear from heaven and I will heal her.
Yes.
Because the people have to humble themselves and pray.
Mm.
They don't come in with their proud religious spirit and pray. He says,
Right.
if my people will
Right.
humble themselves and pray, then I'm going to hear from heaven and I'll heal their land.
Right.
We can't be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what those people are doing in wars and things that are happening right now locally. We're so much better than that. We got to be broken for the enemy,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they're dying and
Good
they're
point.
lost. We need to have a heart for we need to be like Yeshua and crying over Israel, crying over Jerusalem, and our hearts breaking, not just only because of hostages being held, with absolutely yes, but what about the people who are lost?
Yeah.
who don't know him are living in this ugly anger on both sides. Who
Right.
are we broken for this whole situation? Are we broken? Are we just indignant? Are we just angry? Are we just have a religious spirit about it?
Yeah. Because
Same thing with going into the holidays.
their eternity is not based on who was right and who was wrong. They're,
No.
it's based on one thing, and that's Yeshua. And if they are not there, they do not know him, then they are lost for eternity, whether they won the war or lost the war, you know?
Exactly.
And we're all
Exactly.
like that. It's like, what battle? The saying, are you willing to die on that hill type of thing? I think that's how it goes. But,
Yeah.
just choosing your battles, and is this battle really worth separating myself from my family or from my friend, or from whomever it is that you will separate you from that, and you will never be able to speak into their lives about Yeshua again. And
No.
that's
That's what's important. Not to speak what you want, not to be when you're speaking out of your Jacob. You
yeah.
want to speak out of your Israel. You want to speak out of that calling. You want them to see him in you. We say this often here all the time because we've learned it through. We have marriage and parenting classes in the Rooted Cafe. Amazing teachers that are basing it in truly in the Torah, basing it in the words of God. And one of the things that I've taken strongly from some of those classes is, and we use it almost every day. We'll say, "Hey, wait, this is not you against me. This
Mm-hmm.
is us against this problem."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that works for us. I mean, we used to say we're on the same team. That it wasn't the same verbiage. I
Right.
encourage you between sisters, brothers, spouses, friends, in the middle of. I mean, example. Randy was my husband doesn't hear really well, and I was frustrated because I kept had to repeat myself like 3 times, and I was. This is like on the daily, and I started to get frustrated. The Holy One starts touching my heart. Well, at least he can hear something you say. What if he was completely deaf? You would walk in front of his face, you would learn sign language, you would do whatever it took to communicate with your husband. I mean, he just breaks me down constantly. He's constantly like, let's get broken today again. So I go before him and I was like, he goes, well, I'm just going to go back. I'll just get back to working because we're tearing walls down. It's a hot mess here. And so pray for us. And he's like, I'm just going to go back to work. And I go, wait, stop. It's not you against me. It's us against the problem that you have a hearing problem, that it was a deficit from bombs blowing off and war. And there's horrible reasons why you've lost. I mean, a tank blow up on the side of his head. There's a reason he can't hear. That's the problem, is that you can't hear. It's us against this problem, not us against each other. And everything dissipated. What are we going to do to help us be able to communicate? That's the problem, not
Right.
us. So we see these brothers showing up, and they're not. It's us against them. It's the Leah kids against
Rachel.
they're not
Mhm.
Rachel kids. So we're not doing that. I'm like, which are Rebecca? No, Rachel. The Leah versus Rachel kids. It wasn't that. It was like, it's not us against them.
Right.
It's us against this problem, and it's life or death.
Mm.
The problem is life or death. We're going to starve to death if we don't put down all this crazy pride.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to lose our brother again. We're going to lose another brother. And I can only imagine living with that gnawing. I mean, I've done stuff that gnaws at me
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Can you
And you
imagine
can
selling your
only,
brother into slavery?
oh, I
How
know.
that would gnaw on you?
That's what I was thinking too. It's like, and even more if you knew you were responsible for your brother, even being dead, because let's face it, they told everyone he was dead because they probably assumed he was. They told, they even told Joseph himself about Benjamin's brother being dead. He's
Yeah.
right sitting there like, I didn't know I was dead. So,
That's funny you said that, because I think there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves that we eventually just start believing them, because it's easier to believe that than the truth.
yeah, yeah,
It's easier to believe that than to think, oh my gosh, he's in slavery somewhere, being beaten, being horribly tormented and treated horribly. It's easier just to believe he's dead. Got
right.
to be dead. So we create our own narrative that's easier and more palatable for us
Yeah, and
to
we just
handle.
believe, we believe our own lies, right? Because it's
Yep.
easier.
It's easier. It's easier. Well, I pray. Do you have anything power pack that you had some sibling rivalry? We have a few minutes. Do you want to share some of your sibling rivalry talk you had with Loyola yesterday?
Well, it's a theme throughout scripture. We can see it. We talked about it with Adam and Eve because, it was funny. I think it was Loyola who said, you know, why didn't Adam eat the fruit first? He wanted to see what happened to Eve. Let's see if she lived. I thought that was funny. She brought that up. But then we go to Cain and Abel. Then we have, we even have like not with Adam or Abraham and Sarah, but with Sarah and Hagar and then their boys, right? I mean, it just like because she brought up, what if you marry a man, your spouse was involved in sibling rivalry, and you have been involved in sibling rivalry. Now, what happens when you come together? You bring that same kind of rivalry into your marriage. And
Oh,
yeah, and that's what we do because we bring our baggage into our marriage. And so now we get to we just carry on the battles from our childhood and from our families into our marriage, and that's really big. But I love how this ends here in 45. It says 45:15, and in the course of talking about Benjamin and the brothers and Joseph, and he says, and he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. Finally, after this, his brothers talked to him. And I thought that was cool because they had
oh
probably
wow.
never talked. And it actually says, if I can find it, because I do have it marked real fast. But in 37, Genesis 37, and this would be verse 4, when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak to him in peace, in shalom.
Mm, mm,
So we see no communication to communication. Like, let's talk. Let's really talk and get to know each other because they had to get to know their brother all over again and even on a different level because he had matured and become wealthy and famous and all these things that they never knew he was capable of. So,
mm.
yeah. So it's really a huge lesson because we can put someone down, we can alienate ourselves from someone, and then what happens? God uses them in a mighty way. God lifts them up and uses them, and then where are we? We're like, oh, I thought I was better than her. Now God's lifted her up and made her successful. So that's humility. That's being humbled, I guess, at its
Is
best.
that the theme? Are you feeling like the theme of this year for us? I feel like have you guys all heard it? It's really humility. Like
Mhm.
who is he calling to you to? I'm going to ask for a minute, Father. We just ask you right now. Would you bring those people to our minds who you're calling us to be humble for? Who have we gotten all righteous or maybe religious about that you're calling us to be to humble ourselves? Who is it, Lord? Would you reveal that to us right now, each one of us? Is there someone that we need to humble ourselves so that we can be effective?
Mhm.
Bring that to our attentions, Lord. And we ask individually for you to forgive us. Forgive us for the pride. It's ugly. I know it's ugly in your sight. It's
It
not
is.
it's not who you created us to be. We're sorry. Thank you for changing us. Let us know that being humble is not weak. And even though we feel vulnerable in that humility, that you're going to protect us. You are the Lion of the tribe of Judah. You will die for us. You will protect us in our vulnerability. So we thank you for that. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Stephanie, for letting me hang out with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. This was fun. I enjoyed talking with you.
It was fun. You guys want to see who's going to win the thing? I'll see if I'll share this down so you can hear it. We'll pick. I promised you we would. Here we go. These are
Oh,
everybody who just
cool.
stayed.
Lori.
Lori!
Yay.
So Laura, you're the winner. I'm going to be just text me. I know you have my text. I'll stop my share. I know you have my phone number. Text me again your address to make sure I have the right one. So I'll get that book sent out to you today. Yay. And for those of you that are listening on the recording and you've stayed till the end, you'll just have to send us an email. It's info@therootedcafe, KAFE.com, and just say, enter me, I listened to the end or whatever. Doesn't matter what we say. And we'll make sure we do it. And we'll do we'll do it before next Friday. We'll do a second one for everybody who couldn't make it live. Same for those of you who were on the live stream. If you're watching live streaming over on Band, you can do the same thing if you'll just, but you has to be emailed, and then Sydney will put it in she'll do that drawing for us. So love you guys. We're going to do a quick after party for anybody who wants to stay for a few minutes. And we just love you, and know that be the light to your family this weekend. For those of you that are spending time for Christmas, if you're spending time with your families, if you're stepping into those homes, would you be the light, be loving, and let them see Yeshua Messiah in you. Let them see his love, his mercy, and your humility. Anything else, Stephanie, from you?
No, I appreciate everyone being here today. Thank you.
Yeah, love you
Have a
guys.
Shabbat Shalom weekend.
Yay.